All right, it is draft week for the Eagles. And I know, and this is something I preach all the time on here, new Philly mentality, think positive, get rid of the negadelphia and all that other stuff. And I'm guilty of it too. Like a lot of times I'll say, oh, the worst draft picks in Eagles history or the worst signings in Sixers history. But I figured practice what I preach here and let's look at some of the best draft picks. Now, supplemental draft picks, that's basically, it was started in 1977, and it's for players with some eligibility concerns for the NFL draft, or for whatever reason didn't enter the NFL draft. And it's different now because of NIL and the transfer portal and everything. Players are getting paid. But back in the day, if a player took money or got a car or an apartment or hell, even had lunch with the coach, that was an NCAA violation. So some of these players, for whatever reason, lost their eligibility in college and weren't able to hit the NFL draft. So that's when it was started as a supplemental. The Eagles all time have only drafted 5 guys out of a supplemental pick. However, 2 of the guys they've drafted were studs. And first, and probably the biggest and most important supplemental draft in NFL history occurred in 1984. And this was specifically for college seniors who had already signed contracts with the USFL. The NFL was forward thinking. They didn't know whether this was going to be a league that would continue or start. I have some things that I have lined up for this summer with the USFL that we're going to talk about. But the Eagles on this day in the first round, or not on this day, but in the 1984 supplemental draft, took Reggie White out of Tennessee. Reggie did play 2 years in the NFL or USFL for the Memphis Showboats, was able to stay in his home state of Tennessee. After the USFL folded, he came to the Eagles. He's their all-time leading sacker with 124. Ended his career with 198, which is second place, 2 behind Bruce Smith. However, if you include his 23 and a half sacks in the USFL, it's not even close. And Reggie, as we know, was the heart and soul of some of those great Buddy Ryan Eagles defenses. Just a beast among boys when he played. If you're younger and have never seen Reggie White play, go look at some of the replays. His bull rush, he would just manhandle people. Had 21 and a half sacks in 1987 while only playing 12 games. Let that sink in. One of the best all time, but the Eagles took Reggie in the supplemental draft in 1984. And then 3 years later, in the 4th round of the 1987 supplemental draft, they got another stud, another Hall of Famer. They selected Chris Carter. Now, Chris Carter only played 3 years in Philly, had an amazing career in Minnesota with the Vikings, was cut by Buddy Ryan because all he does is catch touchdowns, according to Buddy Ryan. One of the most bizarre and idiotic, insane quotes ever for cutting a player. But what we do know now, after Chris Carter was inducted into the Hall of Fame and said it saved his life. Chris was very much into drinking and drugs. Basically, if it was a drug, Chris was taking it at the time. And basically, it was a wake-up call for Chris Carter. Didn't help the Eagles any, but did save Chris's life. So, and Buddy Ryan, always known as a player's coach, completely made an ass out of himself by saying all he does is catch touchdowns. That's why we're cutting him. But he did save Chris Carter's life. And Chris, to his credit, took advantage of the opportunity, had a Hall of Fame career out in Minnesota. Did catch 19 touchdowns in 41 games for the Eagles. So there is some merit to him only catching touchdowns. But Buddy Ryan took a lot of grief for that, but did save Chris Carter's life. So those are the 2 big, and the other 3 didn't really pan out that the Eagles took in the supplemental draft. But our draft spotlight, supplemental draft picks, Eagles have had some pretty good success drafting 2 future Hall of Famers, Reggie White in 1984 and Chris Carter in 1987. Tomorrow we're going to take a look at undrafted free agents, I guess. So not really draft, but we'll kind of work our way up into the piece. But today, 1984 supplemental draft, Eagles took Reggie White. 1987, they took Chris Carter. Both of them ended up being Hall of Fame players. Reggie for the Eagles, Chris Carter mainly with the Minnesota Vikings. But we will continue our draft coverage tomorrow with undrafted free agents that the Eagles have picked up over the years.